Welcome to the Celtic Huddle podcast and a happy new year to all our listeners and viewers. I'm Mark Wilson. Today I'm joined by the Celtic legend Simon Donnelly and another Celtic favourite live from Australia, straight from the top, Scotty McDonald. Scotty, how you doing?
Good, mate. How are you going? You holding up okay?
Good. Listen, mate, we're loving it. It's a great start to the new year. Lockdown again. You did the right thing with getting out of here. But glad you can join us, mate. And today, actually later on as well, we'll be joined by another Parkhead favourite, legend if you like, and Fleetwood Town player. My old mucker Charlie Mulgrew will be joining us later, so stay tuned for that. So, okay, we're a brand new podcast every week, and we'll take you in behind the scenes and in depth in all things Celtic. And I'm delighted to say once again, the podcast is now sponsored by First Star Legends Gin, First Class Transfers and Social Recluse. We thank them all for their support. So today, guys, again, we've got a cracker for you. Loads to talk about, obviously. We'll look back at Saturday's defeat at Ibrox and discuss where that leaves the club now. We'll look at the media coverage and analysis and where Celtic go from here. And we'll discuss columnists and former Celtic players who have said that change is required at Parkhead from the top to the bottom, from Peter Lawwell to Neil Lennon. We'll also discuss if it is right for the club to be away in Dubai right now when they trail Rangers by 19 points and the country is in lockdown. That's been pretty contentious this week, reading social media, so that'll be interesting to hear you guys' thoughts on that. And please get your comments into us right now and we'll discuss your points. We want to hear from the fans. More than ever right now, the fans' voice is as important as anyone's. So get your comments in. We'll read what you have to say and we will discuss them. So right away, guys, we'll look back at the game against Rangers. Scotty, you would have seen it. I don't know where you would have caught it live or highlights, but we'll start with you, Simon. What did you make of the defeat at Ibrox on Saturday?
Obviously, the result was disappointing. That goes without saying. But I think everybody watching the game, Celtic were in control for very much right up to the red card. You know, started really well, started on the front foot, pinned Rangers back. It was pretty similar to the performance Rangers put in at Celtic Park earlier in the season. Created a couple of good chances. McGregor has a fantastic save off Griffiths. But for me, we're very much in control of the game. It was actually good to see that, you know, on the back of a decent performance against Dundee United. But everything changes in these games in an instance. And the red card, for me, was the huge turning point in the game. I think you'll know better than me being a defender, but Beaton, for a split second, I think thinks he can get in front of Morelos to steal it. Realises he can't. Morelos, who I didn't think had a particularly great game, rolls him, uses his strength. Maybe a wee bit harsh and beaten because I think up until then he was reading passes from the midfield as a midfielder playing at the back and getting in front of Beaton, Morelos. But for that one, takes him out, it's a red card. Rangers score shortly after and the whole game changes.
Scotty, just on that, right, we'll start with that one first and foremost with Morelos rolling Beaton. You were a master at that. I always found it particularly hard to play against you because you always found the defender, held him, rolled him, and you were in. I mean, Morelos does well, but what can Beaton do there? Should he be arm's length away? Should he have been a couple of yards away?
I think it's easy to say that in hindsight, isn't it? But like Sid said, at the point, you know, Beaton having a himself, reading a lot of the Morelos, and Morelos was really cool to that point. But you know, the decisions make, you know, difference in games, don't they? And they was the most within the game because Celtic up until that point were in.
Scotty, wait there 2 seconds. Listen, we're having a wee bit of trouble hearing you. Can you stop, reconnect, and join back in? If that's okay. Yeah. Me and Sid will just kill time to your back. Don't worry, you'll not miss anything. Sid, tell us a joke to Scotty's back. No, look, well, in terms of the game, I mean, you summed it up quite right there. I thought Celtic were far in control. I thought the system looked brilliant. I thought Rangers actually struggled to handle the Celtic system. I thought their two fullbacks didn't know where to come in and pick up, you know, McGregor or Christie. Turnbull was causing problems, and I thought tactically, they got it spot on. But I mean, we've got a few comments here. Let's read. I mean, there's one from Nicholas McCall. Pretty straight to the point. Do you think Celtic are still in the title race? Do you think it's over, basically?
It's a weird one, because we spoke about this last week, and I said if they go to Ibrox and get beat, it's all but over. But the performance for the 60 minutes, for me, suggests... I mean, I've sat and thought about it. Rangers are, I think they've won 20 and drawn 2. It will take some sort of run like that for Celtic to go on. They've showed signs recently that the team's improved. You know, the energy that came in with Sorrow and Turnbull coming into the team. And albeit they don't get the result of the weekend, but stranger things have happened. They've got the 3 games in hand, but they need to go on a run similar to what Rangers have started the first part of the season.
Nah, that's going to be difficult to do.
It's all order.
Yeah, here's one, Sean Maher. Do you boys have any insight to the rumours that Chris Staten and Cham have spoiled the dressing room? Heard anything along the lines?
I haven't heard anything, but I seen that coming up on the side there. Scott Brown is in a changing room there as the captain. I would find it surprising if players were allowed to influence a dressing room, you know, ahead of the kind of strength that he has, strength of character in that dressing room. But again, it's rumours. There's always going to be rumours.
I mean, when I was in the dressing rooms before, you always get your wee cliques, don't you, that stick together. And that was quite often the foreign boys stuck together. And
it's quite often the guys that aren't playing.
Of course, and Cham has been in and out the team. We know from recent times that he says he was unhappy at this and wanted a move away. But it's hard to pin down. Ryan Christie's an interesting one, you know, because I think he's been one of Celtic's better performers this season. A lot of fans are getting on his back now because they've heard rumours that he wants away. But I don't know if you can really say that they've ruined the dressing room. You know, it's
no. But I think with runs like Celtic had been on, and the way the season's going, you're always going to get speculation. You're always going to get rumours about this guy's not happy or this guy wants to leave. But as I say, it's a strong character in there as the skipper. I'd be surprised if he allowed it to be influencing the whole dressing room. Yeah, Scotty's back. Where's Scotty? Loud and clear now. Is that better?
I hope so.
Brilliant, yes. Much better, mate. But listen, we're just talking about what's going on behind the scenes, you know, and a couple of comments coming in there about certain individuals. But look, back to the game on Saturday, and I mean, Neil Lennon criticised Bobby Madden for the near beating saying off. What do you think? Because straight away, see, when I saw it, I was watching the game live and commenting it live, I said that was harsh. Right away, split second, I says, no, it's not saying off, I was getting there. Having seen it from a different angle, it looked the right decision. What do you make, Scotty, of it?
I'd have to agree. You look at it again, and Morelos is definitely going to get a shot away from me. I think is 5 yards behind when he rolls bit on, so I can't see him actually shutting down that angle and not enabling Morelos to get a shot off against Barkas 1v1. So I think from that, it has to be a red card.
Yeah, agree with that, Sid?
Yeah, I think so. I think at the time, same as you, when you watch it in real time, you're thinking, well, he's wide there, but when you watch it back, I know Ayer had recovered on the far side against somebody earlier on. He's got fantastic pace, Ayer, but he wasn't getting back there. Morelos was getting in for a shot and goal.
Yeah, I think so. Now, it appears that, the manager will be given to the end of the season. It appears that way. Reading reports today as well in the newspapers that he's got the backing. Now that's an interesting point for me, because the club did come out, a few weeks ago when all the supporters were gathering outside the stadium and put out that holding statement saying that things will be reviewed in the new year. Now, the worst thing in my opinion happened. You go to Ibrox and you lose, albeit the performance was much better. So why was that statement put out there? What does that mean?
I've no idea why the statement was put out, but what I would say is, in fairness, I think he's got a reaction out of his players in recent times. I really do. What do you do? Go and change the manager right now? You're still in a title race, albeit it's 19 points. There's games in hand. I've read the comments about rebuilding, etc., but surely that's maybe something for once the title is officially over, if it is indeed over. Whilst they're still in it, I don't know if you get much benefit out of changing the manager right now.
No. Scotty, what's your opinion on that? The right thing to keep Neil to the end of the season, or does the Celtic hierarchy have to look at, not this season, but the qualifier, European qualifiers, building for next season, getting players in for next season? Do they have to look at that now instead of the summer?
I think the way that the Celtic hierarchy have looked at it is, if they were to get rid of Neil Lennon now, they're admitting defeat in their own minds. I think that's the way that they look at it, that the league is over if we now sack Neil Lennon. So from that, I think that's why obviously they've stuck with him. But I think beyond this year, I think it's definitely, I think, as well noted within the media aspects of Scotland, that Celtic do need drastic changes at the football club. So I think now is the time that they have to start planning for next season already, and they need to get those plans in place, whether that be new manager, new players, who's going to stay and who's going to go. That there has to be those conversations now, and commitments from certain players, and which ones want to stay and want to be there, and which ones don't. And I think we've seen that probably in the selections in recent weeks from Neil Lennon.
Yeah, I think that the players, that's the big thing for me. The players that want to stay and the players that don't. It was mentioned earlier on the season, players don't want to be here. Now's the time to move them on. But in terms of recruitment, here's a point from Mark Todd. Just up, Celtic have a problem at centre back. We don't have cover, hence the reason Beaton has been asked to play there. When you look at Rangers, they have backup for every position, especially at centre back. Why is our depth and squad so poor in the spine of the team? It's a good point.
It is a good point. We've touched on it before. Obviously, Duffy was recruited and has found it difficult at Celtic. Let's put it that way. He's struggled to establish himself in the team. Hence, they go to Ibrox with Beaton playing at the back. Obviously, Julian gets injured in the Dundee United game. It's a particular area in the team that I would look to try and bring somebody in.
Yeah. In
the transfer window. I agree. Beaton's did okay there, but again, I'm not even convinced that's because he's a midfielder that happened. I think he's just tried to steal that one at the weekend. Mm-hmm. And I think any centre-back could do that as well.
Yeah.
Go an out-and-out centre-back. But I think they really do need to strengthen that position up.
So centre-back, I mean, I'm reading today, Scotty, that Declan Gallagher is a name that's linked. We're going to hear names now that the January window's open. Declan Gallagher, of course, started at Celtic. He was a kid when I was there. Yeah. You know, he's done pretty well to reform his career. A star for Scotland. Is he somebody that the club would look at as an out-and-out defender?
Look, I think he's done an excellent job when he's stepped up to the next level, playing for Scotland. He's no nonsense, as we know. In terms of bringing Celtic to the next level, though, that's questionable for me. He's in a struggling Motherwell side now. Obviously, you can't just blame one player. But form's not great at the moment, at that football club. But certainly, someone like Declan Gallagher gets it. He's been at Celtic before. He's an avid Celtic fan, and he'd be desperate to put the green and white on. And I think that's what fans are asking for right now, especially, the commitment of the players and what it means to these fans. And they want to see people wearing the jersey that it means something to also. So I think Declan Gallagher would certainly be one of them.
Yeah. Well, just back to the game on Saturday. And when Celtic went down to 10 men, I've heard and read in social media the manager being criticised for some of the substitutions. Of course, he had to make subs pretty quickly to reshuffle when a centre-half gets taken off. A couple of points up the side there about, when Rodgers went there and Celtic went to 10 men, he changed things different. But Paul McKenzie, after going a man down, the changes Lennon made were wrong. We needed to keep two strikers on the park. Is that something that should have been done, Scotty, in your opinion? You're one, or you're getting into the most important, 25 minutes of the season, needing to win the game, and
I think
Griffiths was sacrificed.
I think the first thought is fear in terms of the game getting away from you, Mark, and I think that's possibly what's made Neil's decision to do that, and then try to hang in there till the last 10 minutes to maybe then try and push on the likes of Rogic coming on and this and El Yunusi and trying to change the game and trying to get that one chance that gets you the goal. I think that's probably what the decision that was made on the touchline is to try and put the fire out first and then bring on others that are going to influence and maybe try and nick something at the end, rather than playing with that swagger that Brendan Rodgers had at that point. They're more or less invincibles at that point, and everything was a positive change, and everything he touched seemed to turn to gold tactically as well. And Celtic were just a different animal at that point, whereas at the moment they're very fragile. So, putting two up front is it's a great idea in hindsight, but the way the form has been and going 1-0 down away from home at Ibrox, you're trying to stop the momentum a little bit in Rangers' way, and then as the game gets on and it's still 1-0, they get a little bit more tense, and then you can get back in and maybe get that chance. And now Yunusi's unlucky, isn't he, with that long drive with a volley at the end?
Yeah, well, Terry Tibbs makes a good point here. Well, same as you. When you're taking at the bottom, when you talk Terry Tibbs, remember him? Yeah, that's short there, Scotty. When you're taking Griff off and Duffy on, you're conceding. You're no longer trying to win the game and playing for a draw. But Scotty makes a point there. When Rangers are playing so well, you certainly don't want to lose the game. So, look, guys, are we really relying on Rangers losing at Aberdeen on Sunday to give Celtic that kick that something might still be alive?
You have to. That's the only hope that's left. It's the Rangers stuttering. I don't think, speaking to people that have watched the Rangers games over the last, I don't think they've been at their top form either.
No,
that's the encouragement for me. The first 60 minutes, somebody there said that's Celtic's best, but that's what it will take. That if they'd kept 11 men on the park, probably would have been enough to get a result there at the weekend. So I think they need to take the confidence for that. But at this stage, the position we're in, we're relying on Rangers, stuttering. But to take advantage of that, Celtic need to keep winning and put some sort of pressure on them. As I say, it's a tall order, but
Celtic,
we're not giving up.
Yeah, Scotty, Celtic really need to win every game from now to the end of the season, and hoping that Rangers slip up. Can you actually see Rangers slipping up anywhere along the line? It seems to be that even when they're playing poorly, even when teams are on top of them, they manage just to find a way. Can you see it happening?
Look, at this moment, no. I don't see it happening. And I think I mentioned before previous as well that with no fans in the stadium as well, to get the nerves up, I think it actually is a huge advantage for Rangers right now in this moment in time. When things aren't going their way in games, the process is still continuing, and they're hearing the one voice, from the touchline, keep the process going, keep the process going. There's no other noise from the outside. And I think that's beautiful from a Rangers player's perspective at the moment, because you get those, as we all know, we've been in them. You played at Celtic Park in those tense moments where you get 20 minutes in a game and it turns and you're not 1-0 up yet, and the fans turn, and all of a sudden the pressure builds. You make one bad pass, you make another bad pass. That's not happening right now. So for me, at the moment, Rangers are in such a good place and with such momentum, and the players are in such confidence, and they don't have that outside noise. I think they're just in one pathway right now, and I think it's going to be near enough impossible to catch them. Yeah,
well, that remains to be seen, and we can only keep our fingers crossed. But here we go. A favourite subject to a lot of fans out there, not just Celtic fans, but media coverage. We'll go into media coverage. In fact, just before we do that, we're joined by Big Charlie. I see he's done his hair for coming on. Charlie, how's it going, mate? Thanks for joining us.
Mate, I can hardly hear you. Can you hear me all right? Aye.
I can hear you. Do you want me to speak up? Turn your volume up.
Mate,
can you hear me?
You're breaking up like anything.
Have you put money on that internet machine? Not paying you enough doing it at Fleetwood. Can you not hear anything? No. Charlie, have you got earphones? AirPods.
Mate, I can't hear you.
Take that hair out your ears. Right, he's away. Maybe we'll get him back. Right, but we'll jump on to media coverage. Our connection's not the best this week. Right, we'll jump on to media coverage. So, guys, there's been some tough talking in the newspapers and the media in the past few days, past few months, but especially the few days. So, a few comments I've picked out, and you'll know these guys. Stephen McGowan in the Daily Mail, so this is what he said. Celtic are facing a rebuild. From the top of the tree to the bottom, the club needs a complete change of direction. Now, do we agree, disagree with that?
Oh, look, I think they certainly need a different direction in terms of recruitment, possibly management, players. But the hierarchy, do you really see them moving? I know, like, there's been a couple of people within the media say that this is going to be the end of maybe Peter Lawwell and a couple of others, but I don't think Peter finishes on this, not on his watch. He's not going to walk away if they aren't successful this season. He'll want to make sure that when he leaves, Celtic Park, when that time comes, they're in a great place and full of success, just like they have been previous 9 years. But he won't want to finish on this one, I don't think. So the hierarchy for me is going to be staying, regardless of what people want or what people are going to say. That's going to stay. But the unfortunate thing for Celtic over the past, you could even go over the last 9 years, even before that, it's one step forward and then one step back. It seems to be the case of when Celtic have it by the jugular, they tend to go, right, well, we're going to pull back a little bit here. And then they have to go another 2-3 steps again to go and get someone like Brendan Rodgers or a Martin O'Neill, and spend more money because they never did the right things building up to that moment. And it's looking like one of those moments again, Mark, for me.
Yeah. Sid, what are you thinking? I mean, from the top to the bottom, from Neil to Peter Lawwell? Yeah,
well, obviously I spoke about somebody saying there that I've got my Neil Lennon glasses on. I don't at all. I'm just giving my opinion, but Scotty's saying there about recruitment. I agree with Scotty in terms of the guys that have been brought in this season are no better than anything that was there before. And it goes back to the cup final where the two strikers on the bench weren't used. You've got a centre back that came in from the Premiership, wasn't used at the weekend. So it's the recruitment this season has been not as good.
The goalkeeper as well.
The goalkeeper, yeah. Again, you look how important Forster was last year. You only have to look back to the League Cup final where backs to the wall wasn't Celtic's best performance, but he virtually won the cup for Celtic that day. So, yeah, things like that definitely need to change.
Yeah.
Going forward.
Well, I tell you, that leads me on to the next point. Chris Commons, an old teammate of ours, and Chris was on a few weeks ago, fairly outspoken against what's went on at the club. In the Daily Mail, Chris has said the recruitment has been absolutely shambolic for years now. It's short-term and short-sighted panic buys. The board keep doing it to save face. Nobody is doubting the club is spending money, but it's how they're spending it. So, I mean, that leads on to what you guys are saying. Does it really? Scotty?
Yeah. Well, look, for me, I think, especially this season, there's not been one that's trumped. Every single, signing they made this year's failed on the pitch thus far. And they've spent quite a lot of money in the process. So you're always going to have to be you have to face the criticism when that happens. So the head of recruitment has a heavy responsibility within this. And then you look at some of the other players that have been bought, even in Brendan Rodgers' era. Look, as we all know, the Celtic manager doesn't pick every single player that comes into Celtic Park. It's a recruitment process, and the chief executive has his say as well as the head of recruitment, and then it gets petered down from there. The manager will probably get 2 or 3 targets that he wants or who he sees, and then thereafter that it's all about trying to get that cash cow again and build it and sell on players, which you look at the likes of Dembele and Edouard, have paid money for these players, but they've still done really well in terms of the recruitment process for the money that they've received back for some of the players that they've sold on. And you look at Christie, could be another one that's going to possibly leave as well, who wasn't signed for very much money. So look, they've got plenty of assets there that they can go and sell. So the recruitment side of it's been decent at certain times, but just on this season alone, it's just not been good enough because you've been looking at players to come in and improve your first 11, and that hasn't happened probably for a good couple of years, Martin.
Yeah, well, like Mark O'Brien at the bottom here just says no hunger, and the signings we've made apart from Turnbull, that's unacceptable. You could probably say that's largely true. But Charlie, can you hear us? No,
I can
you
hear
back?
you. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Aye.
Can
Yep,
hear you. You
yep.
got that plugged into your Walkman? Is that wireless headphones?
I don't,
What's
I
going
don't
on
know.
there?
My son's just threw these at me. I don't know where he's pulled these from. I've had a pair of earphones on for
Through
years.
1999, he's pulled them through. How you doing anyway, mate?
I was listening to Bonkers 4. Before I come on, mate, I'm hanging about. I'm sitting right next to the wireless hub, mate. I don't know. You've caught me cold here, but I can hear you now. What's happening?
Mate, you're sounding brilliant. You're looking great as well, big man. You letting that hair grow a bit?
It's a bush in it. I just left it.
It's
Today.
like, aye. So, mate, listen, you've missed all the good chat about Saturday's game, but look, just quickly, you would have seen it. What did you make of Saturday's game, Ibrox?
I turned around to somebody after 10 minutes watching it and I said, this is going to be 1-0 Rangers. It just reminded me of the games for the 90s when
Tell me about it, Charlie.
Oh, mental. When Celtic are battering them and then they just go up and score. I just had that feeling about it. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just because I've been scarred for the games in the 90s or what it was, but I just saw that coming and there was nothing in the game really. Celtic with a better team and then the second half just kind of killed the game, didn't it?
Aye, I mean, Sid was involved in most of the games, Charlie, that we were
I need to apologise if I've scarred you with the ones, Charlie.
Oh, Jesus, man.
But like the overall picture, mate, I mean, 10-0, look, you've been a big part of things that have led up to this, and you must have been hoping that would happen, but does that look all but gone now, 10-0? What do you think?
I don't know. I'm still quite optimistic. I think Rangers, if Celtic can go on a run, I know I keep saying it and needs to start now, but if Celtic can go on a run and Rangers slip up a few times, then none of them have won anything in that team. Rangers have no won anything, so I don't know if they'll be able to sustain that. Or you know what it's like. We've all been there when you're getting chased, and even no matter how many points ahead, you lose one, they win one. You start to double guess yourself a wee bit. You start to get a wee bit. There's a bit of pressure starts mounting. And Rangers they've not really been in front and been chased, really, have they? So and they've not won any trophies. I don't know. It's going to be hard. Don't get me wrong, but Celtic need a long run of games winning, and hopefully Rangers slip up a couple of times, and then we'll see where Rangers bottle is then.
Aye, well, it's a good point. What about your old team on come Sunday then against Rangers? You think that might be a tricky one for them? Is that a telling one? You know, they go there, they drop points. You never know how that can affect them. What do you think? Aberdeen get a chance?
Aye, well, that'll be a hard game, won't it? That's the ones you probably look to as a Celtic fan, a Celtic player, and think if they can slip up here, then that's a hard place to go in it. That's a hard place to pick up 3 points, and you're hoping that Aberdeen can maybe get something because they'll be hoping to get up close to the Old Firm, and hopefully they'll be trying to probably aspirations to split the Old Firm. So, you would imagine that's one of the harder games of the season. So you never know.
You'll definitely be on the telly, won't you, at that one? I'll tune in to see you stand next to Big Boydie.
Nah, no chance,
best mate.
I need to get off it. I've bored people to sleep for a few weeks now. I need to take a wee bit of time off it.
Yeah, just
I'm not
Charlie,
just until there's a tactics board on there. I get a few things I need to say.
You know your stuff, big man. I've never seen you doing tactics. I've seen you drawing a few things on the tactics board right enough when a few managers go at the door. But listen, look, just before you come on, right, we were just when you were in and out, somebody said you kept appearing like Jesus at the bottom and then just disappearing. Some of the comments on the side there. Chatting about media coverage. And look, we've been on here for 11 weeks now. It's been quite rough, but the media coverage this week has been quite scathing. And we went through a few. Stephen McGowan, Chris Commons has slaughtered the transfers and the panic buys. Another one, guys. Keith Jackson, the Daily Record, has been a car crash of a season. One bad decision, bumping into the next one. I mean, Scotty, Keith Jackson. I mean, we all know Keith, but is he right? Sometimes he's way off for these things, but he's not far off for this one, is he?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's far off the mark, is he? You know, with it, I think I mentioned it was a car crash. You know, at the beginning, you know, when Neil decided to come out early doors after the Champions League defeat to say players didn't want to be there, and I still go back to that as a real turning point in the league and in the season as well, and upsetting the changing room for me. I think that just sort of upset quite a few of the players in there, and from that it was a rebuilding process for Neil, and it's taken a long time, and henceforth some of the results that have been had up until now.
Yeah. And Charlie, we were chatting to the guys. We all had a wee point in this, not to put you in the spot, but Gary Keown in the Mail on Sunday, it's been a sorry story of self-destruction at Celtic. They've blown their chances of making history. Lennon can't last beyond this season, and Lawwell should go too. I mean, is it time for a change from top to bottom, either now or in the summer? What's your opinion on that?
Listen, it's easy to have a go at Celtic now, right? Because it's their first time where they've come under a right bit of pressure in the last few years. At the end of the day, the quadruple treble winners. In years to come, we're going to look back and say, that's unbelievable. And this team's getting stick because that's the way the press work in Scotland. They have a go at Rangers and then it's time to turn on Celtic. So honestly, everybody wanted 10 in a row, and I still optimistic and think there's a chance of that. But we're talking about a team at a quadruple treble, and Lennon played a big part in that. When nobody else stepped in, Lennon stepped in and he got them over the line with the treble, and then he got the quadruple treble. This is unbelievable that we're even discussing that this team's a failure. Majority of this team have won the quadruple treble. It's unbelievable. 10 in a row would be an unbelievable achievement as well, and everybody wants it. But I think it's harsh, to be honest.
But listen, people are judging. That's the thing. I totally agree with what you're saying, and what these players have achieved is incredible. But people judge probably in the here and now. You know, they wanted. You know, that success is fine, and they ticked that box in December to win the Scottish Cup. But now, I guess it's gone. I mean, even there's Chris Sutton's the final one, and the daily record basically says 10 in a row has gone. I mean, Chris Sutton has been one of the biggest supporters of Celtic through the years, a big pal of Neil Lennon, but even he concedes that it's probably gone now. But you for one, Charlie, aren't convinced it's gone at this minute, are you?
No, because if Neil Lennon goes, who's going to come in? Who's ready? Who's going to come in and do better than Neil Lennon?
But I know that's a good point. I mean, I'm scratching my head just now after the game. A lot of calls came in to the radio show saying that he should go just now, and I'm scratching my head thinking who should come in just now or who is available to come in just now. It's hard to pick someone. It's a
gamble. It's a gamble. No matter who's want to jump in and take a job at this time. Who's available? Who's going to do better than Neil Lennon? I don't know. I mean, it's. I think it would be daft to get rid of Neil Lennon. I think they need to stick by him now to the end of the season and get right behind him and let him make some signings in January or do what he needs to do and try and get them over the line, because it's going to be difficult now. But I think it would be a gamble now to change it.
Well, on that one, Charlie, we asked the boys about it earlier on about making signings in the club. You know, spending money just now. One of the names that was linked is Declan Gallagher. You'll know him well. I mean, Decky was a kid when I was at Celtic. He's reformed his career. He's a star for Scotland. Is he one that could fit into, you know, a Celtic centre back role? You're a guy that's filled it for many years.
Decky's a good player. He's a good centre back. You see what he done for Scotland. He could definitely do a job. But you know what it's like at Celtic, Willow, and it's no easy to play for Celtic. No matter what you've done at other places, when you come to Celtic, it's a whole different thing. The pressure of playing for an old firm club. You've seen Shane Duffy come and have a great career. He's done great in the Premier League, and he comes and plays for Celtic, and it's a whole different thing, whole different pressure. Scott, you know yourself as well. It's not an easy club to play for. Celtic Rangers, the demands on you, the scrutiny on you every single week and every single game. So it's impossible to say. Decky's a really good player and a really good defender, but you'd never know until he's there. And I don't think there's any reason why he can't do a job for Celtic, but there's been bigger players that have came and not done so well, and then lesser players that have came and done very well. So it's impossible to say, but there's no reason why he can't. He's got the attributes.
Yeah. There's somebody there, Matt Virrick Games, agreeing with you, Charlie. I think we saw on Saturday Lenny's probably the man. So, I mean, there is still support out there for the manager just now, and I think said that. I think it's a performance at Ibrox on.
It's a performance for the first hour, but the games before that, they played well against Dundee United a few days before going to Ibrox. They'd won, I think, 5 on the bounce as I say, bringing the likes of Sorrow and Turnbull in gave a wee bit of freshness to the team at that point, and they kicked on. Now, if they'd won it, Ibrox were sitting here talking about different things. Obviously, the score's the most important thing, but everything at Ibrox swung on the red card for me. Mm-hmm. You know, they were in control, played well. I know what Charlie's saying there as well. I sat and thought the same thing. It's like the 90s again. You know, McGregor, the only difference it was going on back then, you know, and it's a horrible one. Even the Rangers goal comes right after the red card. It's an OG, it's a horrible scrappy goal. And it just mirror imaged the 90s for me.
Yeah. I mean,
I get showed on Saturday for me that how important a keeper is.
Yeah.
Look at McGregor. McGregor. Look what he done. That's what Foster done in the cup final a few years ago.
Correct.
It's unbelievable. And then is Barkas made a save this season?
Mate, I've not. Listen, we've made a joke on it here. I've not seen it yet. I've not seen him make a save.
Nobody's questioned the goal, I know, but when you actually look at it, he's moved his leg. I'm not a goalkeeping expert, so I'm not going to go into it.
Give us your opinion. Go on, mate.
I don't know, mate. I don't know why how he's not saved that.
What, saved the goal? Saved the one on Saturday?
Aye. He's moved towards his
listen,
front post.
I've been harsh on him this season, but that's.
I don't want to get into it. That's just frustrating. I'm just frustrated there. But McGregor makes a save. I was watching it in the house with my mates, and the ball went for a back pass, and he stopped it with his foot, and somebody shouted, "Yes, that's the first save he's made," and the place started cheering. I've not seen that.
Listen, I can tell you're not his biggest fan, but aye. No, look, and around about way, I do agree with you. The difference between a top goalkeeper and one who's been, well, no rushed in £5 million, who's just no settled. But look, there's another point to contradict what the earlier one was saying. Alex, whatever that is there, aye, that's the one. We're limping over the line with Lennon. Make the change now. Half the first team will be gone. Now that'll be interesting to see in the summer who stays, who remains. But look, on to our next point, the Dubai trip. I don't think we could go without mentioning this Dubai trip. It's been well documented in social media, in the press. We've had the First Minister, we've had the Deputy First Minister commenting it, we've had reading scientists commenting it today. Right, firstly, should Celtic be away just now in Dubai?
The only thing that you can say is it was organised months ago. They haven't broke the law, but on the back of the position the club is in at the moment and the pandemic, should they have rethought it? Possibly. Have they put themselves out there? You know, they come back and they don't hit the ground running. You know, it's you've put yourself there to be criticised again. It's one of the ones where I know people that are away to Dubai and holiday because they can do it. But the frustrations are magnified this year because a lot of people are back here, we're under restrictions, we're staying in the house, and Celtic aren't doing well. Would it have been looked at as much if they'd beat Rangers at the weekend? I'm not so sure. But
I still think it would have.
Do you think so?
Aye.
Just with the pandemic?
Aye. I mean, I just don't think it looks great when everybody's been asked to make sacrifices and change. And I get elite sports people are in a different kind of bubble just now. But in Dubai's that air bridge. But still, to set an example, I don't think it looks great. Guys, Scotty, what's your take on the Dubai trip just now?
Yeah, I think they probably should have had a rethink about it. Obviously, now that the UK has gone into lockdown as well, and Celtic are probably the only club within the whole of the UK that are away right now. I know in previous years it's worked the trick for Celtic, and it actually is probably a really good thing for Celtic as a whole to get away. You know, Neil Lennon to get a hold of his players, get away from all the bad media, the press, all the rubbish that's going on here. Just concentrate on themselves and build for when they come back. But the stick you're going to take from national media, not just Scottish media, it's pretty big. So Celtic as a football club probably don't look very good from this. You have to say. But again, if Celtic come back and start winning games, it blows over very quickly, will it?
Charlie, were you ever on the Dubai trip? Did you go?
Nah, I just missed it. I left just the year they started going.
It's devastating, isn't it? Every year I think about it when Celtic are away, and I think all the years I was there, we never get taken away.
We done a
winter
Gran
break.
Canaria one
winter
January.
break.
Went to Gran Canaria, and then the next year they
That's a
started
poor
going to
man's Dubai.
I know.
Poor man's Dubai, mate. Who'd you go to Gran Canaria with? Ronnie Dyler?
Aye, Ronnie Dyler, aye. To go to Gran
Aye,
Canaria.
you see in the Ronnie Roar at the pool. You get you out for it. What was that? What did you actually? I mean, what did you do? Did you actually train? I know it sounds a stupid question, but
aye, we trained every day. We trained every day, mate. Aye, we trained. He trained us hard every day, and then we go to relax and play golf in the afternoons, and it's brilliant for team bonding. And we get a night out, which is also good for team bonding. And we, it was good. Definitely a worthwhile trip when you've got that bit of time. So I think if Celtic were approved by all the legal people and the government and everything, then I don't think there's any reason why they shouldn't go there. If they think it's going to help the team, and every other year for the last 3 or 4 years they've done it and it's helped the team, so why wouldn't you do it now when the team needs help?
it's just the look though. People having to cancel. Normal people, having to cancel everything. And
I don't agree with the whole lockdown as it is, but we won't go into that anyway. I've got theories and all sorts.
Let's get your thought on let's get your thought on the lockdown,
on
mate.
Boris.
What's
your opinion on Boris?
Start me on that.
I'm joking. We don't want the government to shut us down. We've just started.
I'm ready to start the homeschooling. In the next few weeks, and my head's going to fly off. So don't start me the day on the whole lockdown thing. I think it's a shambles. Nobody mentions the flu now. It's all COVID. Where's the flu? The flu disappeared.
Listen, we'll get you on to Nicola Sturgeon next week, mate.
Jesus.
We'll get her and you on. I can see Charlie's a bit animated about it. He's right about the homeschooling. Look, back to this Dubai thing, right? Take away the trip.
Right.
See, when Celtic have had some fixtures to fulfil they've missed, would it have not been beneficial to stay here and get fixtures out the way this week? So you're looking at that 19-point gap that could be 22 by the time Celtic play Hibs. They could have chipped away at that, and like Charlie's saying, a wee bit more pressure could have been on Rangers. The point difference is narrower.
I agree with that. That's a good point. And again, I wasn't even aware Celtic were going to Dubai till maybe round about the game at the weekend. But when you read it, and they've prepared it weeks in advance, months in advance. But that is a good point, especially in a year where you're looking for dates. You don't know what's going to happen. We're in another lockdown. You don't know what's going to be around the corner. It would have been a good time to try and get those games and try and get the points under your belt.
Yeah,
it's a good point.
Yeah. Well, coming back, they face Hibs on Monday. So, Hibs haven't been great recently, but still a tricky enough game. For just before we finish, guys, Scotty, your predictions for that one on Monday?
I think they come back and put a performance in. I think they've been excellent for in recent weeks, and Neil seems to have found the right recipe in terms of his team and his shape. So I think with this breakaway, they'll work hard, and I think they'll come back, and I think they'll put a performance on, and they'll get the win that's needed.
Yeah, Charlie, what are you thinking?
It'll be a tough game, but they know they need a reaction after the Old Firm and the way things have been going. So I think they'll win it. They'll win it quite comfortably.
Mm-hmm. Sid?
Yep, same.
Yeah,
same. I think they'll take the current form into that game, and I think they'll win 2 or 3-0.
Well, who knows what happens at Pittodrie on Sunday? Celtic winning Monday. It could be a different look to next week. But guys, that's us. Thanks very much to Scotty for joining us all the way in sunny Australia. Cheers, mate. Charlie, thank you very much for finding the earphones for your wee boy for the year 2000. Maybe speak to you soon. Wish you all the best as well, Charlie. At Fleetwood, when you back, actually? When's your next game?
We're back here on Sunday.
Aye. And your guy, of course, just quickly, your manager, a Celtic favourite.
He's left. He was
resigned.
A shock for everybody. Nobody seen that coming. I don't know what's went on, but it was a big shock. So we'll see what happens Sunday.
I heard Mogga's in the running to get that job.
Could be.
Anyway, we'll leave it at all the best, mate, on Sunday. Thanks for joining us, guys. And listen, thanks. Cheers, guys. And thanks for listening again. That's it. Until next week, thanks to our sponsors, First Star Legends Gin, Social Recluse, and First Class Transfers. We'll see you next week, hopefully with a positive result.